What if I told you that the universe tries to communicate with you every day, but in such a subtle way that most people never even notice it? Because the most important messages rarely appear as major events. They almost always come disguised as small signs, strange coincidences, or feelings you can't explain, but somehow they stay with you. Many times, before something important happens in your life, certain signs start to appear, as if something were moving silently behind the scenes of your reality, as if life itself were trying to prepare you for a change you can't see yet. Carl Jung, one of the greatest explorers of the human mind and the collective unconscious, was convinced that there is a deep connection between what happens inside us and what happens in the outside world. For him, some coincidences are too precise to be mere accidents. And when certain patterns start repeating over and over in your life, it's not just by chance. It's a sign that something is trying to get your attention. Within this vision, there's a fascinating idea. When you're aligned with your true path, reality starts to arrange things in your favor. It's not about isolated events, but rather a chain of occurrences that gradually start to fit together. It can manifest as an intuition that's impossible to ignore, a dream that keeps repeating itself, a door that closes to force you to look in another direction, or a person who appears just when you need them the most. Events so improbable, it's hard to believe they're just coincidences. In this video, you'll discover 5 signs that, according to Jung's teachings, could indicate that something important is about to come into your life. Maybe you've already experienced them. Maybe you've even ignored them without realizing what they meant. Because when you learn to recognize these messages, something changes inside you. You stop moving forward with doubts and start walking with a different feeling. It's different, as if you knew that every step is taking you exactly where you need to be. So if you're ready to discover the signs that might be appearing in front of you right now, stay with me until the end, because what comes next could change the way you see reality. And the most curious thing is that the signs have already begun. The first sign is a deep restlessness that appears without any apparent reason. Everything seems to stay the same, but inside you, something no longer feels right. You wake up one morning and feel that something is different. You don't know what it is. Nothing extraordinary happened. However, there's a lingering feeling that doesn't leave you. It's not fear. It's not anxiety. It's not even a specific worry. It's more like the impression that the life you have can no longer contain the person you're becoming. More like the impression that your surroundings will remain exactly the same. Jung described this process as a movement of the unconscious, a moment when something deep begins to awaken and demands to be heard. And here's the interesting part. That discomfort is not a sign that something is wrong. It's a sign that something is changing. It's the deepest part of you trying to tell you that you're ready for a new stage. Even though your mind still has no idea what it will be, many people ignore this signal because it's uncomfortable. After all, routine can be boring, but it's also comfortable. And the ego loves what's familiar, even if they keep it trapped. But when it's time to evolve, life rarely asks for permission. It starts to push you, makes you uncomfortable, shakes you, and keeps doing it until you finally pay attention. That restlessness usually comes with a desire that's hard to explain. Suddenly you want to change things, explore new paths, do something different. Maybe you feel like traveling alone, learning a completely new skill, meeting different people, or reviving dreams that have been gathering dust in some corner of your mind for years. And even though it may seem impulsive, many times it's part of the process. Before you transform your external reality, an internal transformation happens first. Jung stated that the unconscious often manifests itself through sensations, dreams, and impulses that at first seem irrational. And that's exactly what happens here. You start to notice details you used to ignore. Your intuitions become more intense. Your dreams seem to have hidden messages. And you get the feeling that something is pushing you forward even though you still can't see the destination. If you're experiencing something like this, it doesn't mean you're lost. It means you're being redirected. Life is making space inside you for something new. The more you resist that process, the more uncomfortable it gets. The key is to understand that this feeling is not the problem. It's the sign that something important is starting to move. You're not confused. You're getting ready. The second sign appears when coincidences start happening too often to ignore. You think about someone you haven't seen in years, and suddenly they text you. You desperately look for an answer. And suddenly, a book, a phrase, or a conversation appears that contains exactly what you needed to hear. You talk about a dream you've been keeping for a while. You liked it. And almost immediately, an opportunity arises that seems to have come out of nowhere. And then you start to wonder about something unsettling. Are they really coincidences? Or is there another reason for all this? At first, it even makes you laugh. But then you start to notice something strange. You start to realize that it's not an isolated incident. It's not a funny coincidence every now and then. It's something that happens too often to ignore. Carl Jung studied this type of phenomenon in depth and called it synchronicity. For him, synchronicity happens when what's happening outside and what you're experiencing inside start to align in such a precise way that logic can't fully explain it. It's not magic. It's not superstition. It's another form of connection between your inner world and what you're experiencing outside. It's as if your internal state starts to influence the way your reality is organized, or at least in how you perceive and experience it. And at that point, everything starts to change. You stop pushing so hard. You stop trying to control everything. You stop going against the current, and suddenly things start to fall into place in a strange, almost unsettling way. The right people appear just when you need them, and opportunities arise without you having to chase them.
Oportunidades surgen sin que las persigas.
Answers come at the exact moment when you no longer know what to do. And many of these signs don't come as something obvious. They come disguised. A number that keeps repeating itself. A song that shows up at key moments. A phrase you hear from different people on different days. Or even a dream that somehow connects with something that ends up happening later. And here's the important detail. If you're not paying attention, all of this just happens, like background noise. But when you start to notice it, you start to see a pattern. The mistake most people make is trying to explain it too quickly, reducing it to coincidence, mind playing tricks, things that happen. But Jung saw things differently. The unconscious doesn't always speak in clear words. Many times it speaks in symbols, patterns, and coincidences. And that language isn't interpreted with pure logic, but with attention, sensitivity, and presence. And the more you try to force it or analyze it, the more the experience falls apart, because these signs can't be controlled. They appear when you're in a state of real openness. In fact, something curious usually happens. The more you trust, the more they appear. And the more you doubt, the more they fade away, as if the phenomenon responded more to your internal state than to your external effort. If you're going through a moment like that, the worst thing you can do is ignore it completely or obsess over it. The important thing is to observe without anxiety, without needing to force an immediate meaning. Just look at the patterns, because these coincidences, when they keep happening, start to act like little guides, like breadcrumbs that lead you towards something you still can't fully see. And deep down, they start to suggest an unsettling idea. You're not moving forward blindly. Something is being arranged around you. And now comes the third sign, because at this point, something starts to happen that confuses many people even more. people and situations begin to drift away. They start to drift away from your life naturally. They leave without major conflicts, in fact, without clear explanations. They just go. A friendship that seemed solid starts to cool off for no apparent reason. A job that used to suit you. Suddenly it starts to feel heavy, empty, or out of place. Places you used to enjoy lose their appeal. And the most confusing part of all, it's not you forcing a goodbye. It's as if life itself is rearranging your surroundings without asking for your permission. Carl Jung spoke about these kinds of processes as a profound transformation where something old has to die symbolically so that something new can be born. Although it sounds intense, it's not a punishment. It's a readjustment, because what is leaving wasn't necessarily bad. It simply no longer fits with the version of yourself that's starting to emerge. The problem is that the mind doesn't let go so easily. It clings, rationalizes, tries to recover what is already losing strength. And that's where the internal conflict appears. Because while one part of you feels that something new is approaching, another part becomes afraid of what is leaving. Nostalgia, doubt, feeling of emptiness. But here's something key. Not everything that goes away is a real loss. Often, it's the end of a cycle. Lessons that have run their course. Experiences that have fulfilled their purpose in your life. And when that's over, they simply can no longer be sustained. The problem is that when you try to hold on to everything, all you do is prolong the wear and tear. Because what no longer belongs on your path, sooner or later, falls away on its own. And the sooner you accept it, the less painful the process becomes. Because you are not being abandoned. You are being redirected. That happens because you are going against the natural flow of life. It's as if the universe is trying to give you something new. But you keep your hands full, holding on to what has already ended. And that leaves no room to receive the new. You inevitably have to let go of the old. It's not optional. It's part of the process. And this sign also shows up clearly in something else. You start to lose tolerance for the superficial, meaningless conversations, tense environments, relationships based on appearances or habit. Simply, you just can't take them anymore. It's not about thinking you're superior. It's something else. It's that your perception changes. It's like something inside you starts tuning in to a different frequency. And what used to fit now feels strange, forced, even uncomfortable. And at that point, many people get scared because they think they're losing connections, when in reality, they're shifting to a different inner level. Carl Jung talked about something very profound related to this. The dark night of the soul, a period where everything you thought was stable starts to fall apart. Relationships, beliefs, identity, everything seems to lose shape. But here's the interesting part. It's not destruction. It's reorganization. It's just that from the inside, it doesn't feel that way. It feels like chaos, like emptiness, like distance. And that's exactly why this stage is often mistaken for solitude, when in reality, it's a process of inner realignment, a space life gives you to stop looking outward or backward. You start truly listening to yourself. If you're going through something like this, forcing answers doesn't help. It's not about holding on tighter. It's about letting go of the need to force things, of what no longer supports your growth, because what is meant for you doesn't need to be desperately chased. It stays or comes back when the time is right, and what isn't meant for you leaves, even if you try to hold on to it. And now the fourth sign appears, and this is one of the clearest, but also one of the most confusing. You start to feel an urgent need to be alone, not as sadness, not as punishment, not as an escape. It's something much more internal. It's as if suddenly the noise of the world started to feel too heavy. Long conversations, social plans, constant exposure, it all starts to drain you more than usual. And the only thing you want is silence, space, time with yourself. Carl Jung described it as part of the process of individuation, a moment when the person stops living entirely for the outside world and starts turning inward. It's not isolation out of pain, it's a necessary retreat to reorganize yourself from within. And even though from the outside it may seem strange or even worrying, what is happening is profoundly natural, because something inside you is working in the background, as if your internal system needed to disconnect from the external noise in order to readjust itself. And that affects everything. Your energy, your interest in socializing, your patience, your way of reacting and relating to others. Suddenly you no longer feel like explaining what you feel or having empty conversations or pretending to be present when you're not. And this is where many people misunderstand this process. Others think you're pulling away, that you're acting strange, that something's not right. But what's really happening is something else. You're not running away from life. You're going towards yourself. And that movement, although simple in theory, is one of the most profound things a person can experience. Because in that solitude, things that were previously hidden start to appear. You question everything you took for granted. You notice patterns you used to repeat without realizing it. You recognize wounds you had never faced before. You also notice something important. Desires that weren't really yours, but ones you'd learned. It's a process of internal dismantling, and at the same time, of reconstruction, as if the old version of yourself were coming apart to make room for something more authentic. Carl Jung believed that the most important answers are not outside, but in the deepest layers of the unconscious. And that's why this retreat is not a mistake. It's a forced pause, a space that life creates to force you to look inside and find there what you were always looking for outside yourself. It's not punishment, it's preparation. It's not abandonment. It's transformation. And even though from the outside it may look like everything is falling apart, in reality something much deeper is settling inside you. Many people reject this stage because the silence makes them uncomfortable. They're afraid of solitude. They're afraid to face themselves without distractions, and so they fill their lives with noise. Busy schedules, constant conversations, relationships that only serve to avoid being alone with themselves. But the more you run away from that inner space, the more it intensifies. Because there is one thing the universe doesn't seem willing to negotiate. You can't receive a new version of your life if you keep holding on to the previous one. If you're feeling that need to isolate yourself, to slow down, to disconnect from the superficial, don't ignore it. Don't burden it with guilt. Don't cover it up. Respect it. Cancel what's unnecessary. Stay with yourself. Read, write. Walk alone. Allow yourself the silence without instantly filling it. Because in that silence, you're not losing anything. You are being reconfigured. It's a process of internal adjustment, of cleansing, of preparing for something that requires a more conscious version of yourself. And that version is not born in the noise. It is born in the void. Now we move on to the fifth sign, and this is where everything gets even more interesting. Your dreams start to change. They become more intense, more vivid, harder to ignore. They're not just random fragments of the mind. They're experiences that feel so real that when you wake up, you're left with the feeling of having lived another life during the night. Some dreams even repeat themselves with small variations, as if something insists on sending you the same message from different angles. Carl Jung dedicated a large part of his life to studying this phenomenon because he understood something crucial. Dreams don't just process the day. They also reveal deep layers of the psyche that we can't see in a conscious state. When something important is brewing inside you, the unconscious starts working more intensely. And it does so while you sleep. It organizes, symbolizes, warns, and prepares. And it speaks to you in a language that is not literal but symbolic. That's why strange scenes appear. Unknown places that feel familiar. People you don't know, but who convey something important. Impossible situations that nevertheless leave an emotional mark, very real. flying, going through doors, getting lost in unknown structures, receiving objects, finding hidden paths. None of that is random. They are internal representations of processes that are happening inside you. And many times these dreams answer questions you hadn't even consciously asked. You wake up with clarity, with strong intuitions, with decisions that suddenly seem obvious, as if something inside you had been reorganized during the night. This happens because while you sleep, the rational mind loses control, and the deeper part takes over. In that space, internal information flows without filters, without judgment, without blockage, and that can generate experiences that feel almost revelatory. In some cases, these dreams even anticipate changes in a symbolic way, not literally, but emotionally or energetically. Water, fire, falling, encounters, journeys. Each element is usually linked to internal processes of change, cleansing, or transformation. And when you start to recognize patterns, you realize something curious. Your inner world always moves before the outer world reflects it. In more advanced cases, some people experience lucid dreams, dreams where you are aware that you are dreaming. And that's where something deeper happens, an expansion of consciousness within the dream itself, as if you started to remember that you can also observe your inner world as it happens. Carl Jung saw these kinds of experiences as signs of psychic integration, greater access to layers of consciousness that normally remain hidden. If you're experiencing something like this, don't force it. Observe it. Record it. Record what you recall right after waking up. Because over time, patterns start to appear. And those patterns show you an inner language that was always there. But you had never learned to read it. And now everything fits. These 25 signs are not a coincidence. They are phases of the same process. A profound readjustment, an internal reorganization before an external change. And if you've recognized even one of them in your life, then you're not imagining things. Something is moving. Something is being prepared. Carl Jung summed it up in a very simple way. Before any real transformation, there is always silent work happening inside. First, the mind changes. Then life changes, but never the other way around. And the problem is that most people only want the result without going through the process. But the process is what prepares you to handle what's coming. Because what's coming doesn't fit with the old version of you. That's why everything is shifting. That's why everything is being cleared out. That's why some things are ending without explanation. It's not loss, it's space. So if you're in the middle of this right now, don't force it. Don't try to control it. Don't interpret it from a place of fear. Just walk with it. Listen, observe. Trust the process without needing to understand everything yet. Because what is coming is not here to break you. It's here to expand you. And when it arrives, you will understand why everything had to shift before.